What's up, guys? It's Ace Coleman here with the Champion Blueprint podcast, and today's guest is Brady Myers. Brady Myers just won the 2024 ASA Hoyt Pro-Am in the Open Pro class. Levi Morgan shot a 14, and Brady had to shoot a 12. Is that right? A 12?
That's right.
You had to shoot a 12 to win the title, and that was the craziest donut inside out shoot off, had to judge it. It's insane. So, but Brady is from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and yeah, he shoots IBOs. I've seen him with the IBOs, but I haven't really seen him much at ASA, so it's good to see him there. But dude, welcome.
Yep, thank you.
So, Brady, what got you into archery in the first place?
So I started shooting when I was about 8 years old. I believe my dad got me a hunting bow, and I just like shooting in the backyard. And I started going with my uncles and my one cousin. They all shot state tournament every year, just the indoors. And so I started going to a shop, Alpha Archery used to be called. He's now closed. His name is Ken Haynes, owner of it, and his boy Levi Haynes. Some people might know he wrestles for Penn State, and he really helped me get going, and I ended up shooting my first state tournament when I was 8, and I won that, and then I just kind of got hooked from there. I started shooting a show at the Great American Outdoor Show here in Pennsylvania. They always had a 3D tournament there. I shot that every year until I was about 11, and when I got to be 11, I started getting into more outdoor field and hunter a lot. That's what we shot mostly for states, field and hunter indoors, and I kept on shooting that. And when I turned 13, this was the first year I started shooting IBO. So I started off in there, and I went right into a 13 and 14-year-old class, and then didn't even realize that I could actually shoot in the Cub class. So I ended up shooting the first 2 shoots in the 13, 14, and did all right. And then I realized that I could actually be in the Cub. So for the third leg at Triple Crown, switched down to Cub, and actually shot a score so high everyone thought I cheated. Had to show my birth certificate. But I won my first world championship then in 2017, and just pretty much hooked from there. I just loved shooting the IBO.
So yeah, when did you first start shooting ASA?
Last year was my first year shooting ASA. I wasn't able to get to all of them because my dad never had a lot of vacation, just not enough to get down there, and we always like to hunt and stuff, so there just wasn't enough time for me to do it. But since last year was my first year shooting pro, I made time to make it down to all of those.
Absolutely, man. That's what you have to do, and props to you for that. So, who is a big mentor or coach that you've had when you first started shooting that's really helped you?
Yeah, so I had a couple people throughout the years. I was primarily self-taught, and my dad, he helped. I mean, he helped what he could, and he didn't know a lot, especially tournament archery. He had no idea how tournament archery worked for the most part until I got really into it. So, like I said, Ken Haynes, he really helped me get started, and he would work on my bows and all that till we eventually figured that all out ourselves. And I went to Larry Wise when I believe I was 12 or 13, and he helped like tweak my form a little bit. And then actually a little bit before that, a local guy around here used to be a really good shot back in the day. His name is Andy. He helped me before that. Then I got to a point where I wanted to go to Larry to really step my game up a little bit better. I was already shooting good. I just wanted to be the next level. So Larry helped me from there. And I went back to him a little later, maybe a year later. And form-wise, I mean, he had nothing to tell me. So he said, "You look great." It's all between the ears now, pretty much. So, and then Chrissy Collin helped me with the mental side of things for a little while, and then that was the last person that really helped me, like shooting, as far as shooting wise goes. So, yeah.
So, Chrissy
Collin.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Larry Weiss has written some books about archery I've seen. classic guy, very awesome coach. So, and then of course your local guys. Props to it's Kent.
Ken Haynes.
Yes, very nice. So, what's a significant challenge that you've had when like you're getting better at tournament archery, like with your form or your mental game, that these coaches are able to help you out with?
Yeah, so my biggest problem was when I got target panic. I think I was 11. I might have been 11, just going on 12. I don't exactly remember. I try not to remember, to be honest, but that
Right.
was a real struggle for me. And I kind of got out of that on my own. I can't even remember who really helped me for that. I switched to hinge, and I shot a ton of blank bill, a lot of aiming drills, and I eventually worked my way out of that. And that was the last time I shot a button, was when I was like 11 or 12. I've never shot a button release for any sort of tournament just because of that. That's the reason I shoot a hinge release. So, but yeah, I pretty much got out of that one myself, but that was probably my biggest struggle there with archery.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can remember personally, um, we always shoot a wrist rocket when you're first starting out, and then the next transition is usually now it's time to shoot a button. And
Yeah,
I shot a button. I didn't realize I was shooting it wrong when I was first learning it. Like you could punch it several different ways. But I remember the first time I ever tried a hinge, it had a click in it. As soon as I got it to the click, I ripped that sucker and it went straight
yeah,
left. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And
yeah,
it's like I just had to get really close to the target and just learn how it worked and put it on a string like a piece of paracord, figure out how to anchor and everything, how to set the release, start cold, and then yeah. So I'm sure you had a similar experience.
yeah. I actually started with no click, and I did that for a while. I just never could get it to work for me. Especially, it's probably because I was so new. I just really wanted to lean towards the click, and I eventually taught myself to use the click. So I don't use the click as part of my process. As I'm anchoring is normally when my release clicks, or I click before I even start aiming. So basically, a click is more of my setting point. It's nothing to do with me pulling through, and it never bothered me. Like, I know some people get real jumpy with it, but I've been pretty relaxed with it, and I've shot it for years now.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point for people that are new listening to this. The click is not really like some people say it's a safety, and it technically is, but like we just want the click to kind of help prevent us from over rotating the handle one way or the other when we're shooting and to have a consistent starting point, I would say,
Yeah,
you know.
that
Yeah. So, but anyway, as far as the mental game, is there anything special that you would do for the mental game?
um, more. I really got to focus on the indoors more. When I get in indoors, I'm still struggling with this today, but I get myself wandering, and that's normally when I miss, is when my mind's wandering. So the biggest thing I had was focusing on a keyword or a key phrase, which is what Christy really helped me with, focusing on that phrase. And it's been helping me, but indoors is just always a struggle for me. And when I'm shooting 3D, I'm just relaxed. I guess I enjoy it more. Maybe it helps. But I'm also, when I'm judging, I'm focusing on numbers. So
Right.
my mind's occupied not on making the shot. So I'm focusing on other things. I'm not thinking about, yeah, I got to break this really clean shot. I'm focusing on, hey, is this number right, or am I a little high? Am I going to rise up? So normally I can execute a good shot for 3D. But I, if you can keep like sort of that mindset, just focusing on, for me, this works for me. I don't know about anyone else, but just focusing on anything other than making that perfect shot actually helps me more in 3D. But in indoors, it's just everything you can do, from just not letting your mind wander, just focusing on what you're aiming at is what really helps me the most.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the cool thing about it with judging. It's like your shot is really the last thing you really should be focusing on. You got to make sure
Mhm.
that the distance is right and you're aiming in the right spot. Do you ever like, this is just a side question, but like, do you ever pull back on a target and you judge it and you put your scope in the middle and it's like, my number is way off and you have to like change it or change how you're aiming or change your sight?
Yeah, so you're not allowed to change your sight once you draw back. So
Okay.
so I have before moved up and down, and sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good, and it's you got to get it enough to really be able to tell a difference. Because I know I've done it before and it didn't end good. I ended up shooting right where I was aiming. So yeah, that definitely happens like almost once a tournament. It feels like.
Wow. Anyway, so as far as like course management and making sure you're not going, I guess, too aggressive, how, like, what's your mindset when it comes to when you first get on a course? What are you really looking to do um, for like the first five targets?
So for me, I'm still so new to the ASA. IBO is pretty simple. You're kind of you got one. There's not much of a course management. You just gotta you're hitting the middle. ASA is a totally different. It's more a lot of strategy goes into it. So last year I didn't perform well, probably mostly because I just was trying so many different things. I never got anything to work. So actually before Foley, Levi Morgan just put out a judging video, and it is a great video for anyone that wants to watch and learn how to judge. So pretty much I watched that, and it kind of can help me confirm what I wanted to do. So he goes for all lowers, Levi, and basically I'm the total opposite. I want to go for all uppers. My so what I try to do, I try to walk up and there's normally one number that pops in your head when you're just looking at it, but I try to get a range of like three numbers. So and then I decide which number I want to go for. So if it ends up, I normally end up taking my lower number and aiming hard at the upper because it gives me way more room to fall. And for me, I'm more than likely always judge low. So it really helps keep me in that 10 ring. I I only had I didn't actually I only had one shot from a bad number this past weekend. So that's what works for me. For someone else it can be different, shooting you overjudge them. So going for the lowers is probably your best idea would be the best idea for that. But yeah, it's definitely a strategy that goes into it.
Absolutely. I was behind Jack Wallace at a tournament once, and I was listening to him talk to someone, and he said that he's talking about this guy that used to shoot, and he could judge and get the number every single time, but he never put the pin in a good spot, and he never set his sight in a good spot. And he was like, if I could have just set his sight for him and told him where to aim, he would have hit everything because he
Yeah.
always got the number. So like that's a lot of strategy, it sounds like. But as far as the upper strategy, you see that a lot in like the known classes. A lot of guys will just naturally hit low, or, like the upper is, I guess, easier to see in many cases. But yeah, so you judge low
Mm-hmm.
on most every target, and you usually aim hard at the upper, and it'll just kind of fall out. And if you're lucky, you'll just get the bottom of the upper, and that's kind of what you're wanting to do.
Yeah. So, and two, if I really need the points, I will start putting my number straight at the upper. But I still rarely shoot out the top because I always tend to judge low. But yeah, it's really what you're comfortable with. And for me, the upper is easier to aim at because when I hold on the lower, my pin likes to, as soon as it bobs out, I get a little bit of movement. So it'll bob into the 8 ring and it really freezes me up, so I can't break a clean shot. When I'm aiming at the upper, I'm normally floating from the top of it down to the bottom and back up. So it works out good for me.
Absolutely. So your pin is always inside the 10 ring. It's never going to leave the 10 ring.
Yeah, most of the time I never leave 10 ring.
Exactly. That makes sense, man. So, for anyone that's wanting to shoot in the open pro class or they're wanting to judge, as far as getting a strategy for judging and learning targets, what advice would you give that person?
Yeah, so you basically, if for ASA, you just need a strategy, and I don't know really how to tell someone to practice judging. If you got targets, of course, studying them targets, but really for me, it was experience, just shooting unknown for 6 years now. And just recently, I mean, last year was my first year shooting unknown out to 50 yards, and it was a big learning experience for me last year to really get to where I'm at now. So if you, just like I was saying earlier, if you're shooting ASA and you tend to overjudge, I would almost always go for lowers. Would be something to try. Or if you underjudge, go for uppers. You can try to play the rise or the fall. I know some people do that, and it works sometimes for me, but I tried that a lot last year. I just could not get anything going with it because I don't know. It's not the same. I feel like I don't break as well when I'm trying to aim in the middle unless I can actually see the 10 ring. It's just I seem to still miss low, and then I just never catch any 12s. So I'm better off just aiming right at them for me. But I know some guys do that. I don't know how many, but I've heard people talking about it. But yeah, that's the best I can.
Absolutely. That's a really cool idea. I personally, I would try aiming right at the ring, and
Yeah.
because you're going to aim smaller, and I feel like your feedback on your number and how you set your sight would be more instant. You would know, hey, my number was on as soon as the arrow hit the target. Now, if you're aiming in nothing almost, there's no like
Yeah.
clear area to tell. It's kind of, I'm sure it's harder to tell. Like, was I on? Was it a good shot? You know?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
it's just easier when you're aiming at, like you said before, you're aiming at a small spot, so you really got to key in on that. So it's much easier to break a good shot, and and you'll know if you're gonna rise, or if you rose or you fell on that shot.
for sure. So, tell us a little bit about the sponsors you have and like the bow company, site, release.
Yeah, so I signed with PSC my first year shooting pro last year, and actually re-signed with them this year. And shooting for B3, I signed with them this year for the next couple years. And America's Best Bowstrings, I just signed with them as well this year. So excited to be a part of all their teams and shoot specialty archery and bow doodle arrow rest, Black Eagle arrows, and conquest. So a lot of great companies, and they support me well. So
Yeah. Which release are you shooting?
I'm shooting the B3 Coupe.
Gotcha. Classy. So, which bow are you shooting? Like which model?
Dominator Duo 38 with the SE2 cams.
Okay. Nice. And what's your draw length?
I'm right at 31 on the cam.
That's a good spot to be in. I've heard on those cams.
Yeah, it's definitely it's in a good spot for that SE2 cam too, and I can get fairly good speed, so I can push as much weight as I can with my arrow.
For sure. So, as far as your bow setup, what makes a setup shoot really good for you? Like, what variables are you looking at the most? Are you looking at holding weight, draw length? What variables do you prefer?
For me, it's most important thing is get my draw length, make it comfortable for me. I really like the 38 because of string angle. This is the whole reason I shoot 38 and not 40. I've shot 40s in past years, and PSC never had a 40 axle to axle bow. So that's why I've pretty much stuck with the 38 from even last year, and I don't shoot the Super X. It's all for me. It's string angle. It's not that one shoots better than the other, but the important thing too for me, I got to get my draw length. It has to be right for me to execute a good shot, even just holding wise. If it's a little short, a little long, I can definitely see more movement, and it won't break as clean. But yeah, I normally run my holding weight. I'm not too heavy with my hinge, about 17 and a half to 18 pounds normally. But yeah, that's what's important to me there.
Absolutely, man. So, as far as getting your draw length set up, what do you have like a process you always go to make sure you have your draw length set?
So I pretty much can tell what feels good. So I take my bows year to year. So like last year's indoor setup, before I put new strings and everything on it, I measured everything to make sure I get my bow for the following year exactly the same. And this year I actually tweaked a few things. I think I'm shooting about a 16th of an inch, maybe eighth of an inch longer than it was last year. Just I shot well last year, something just wasn't feeling right. So then I have 3 bows, and I shoot my indoor bow for all season, for all indoor season. And then I take my 3Ds and I copy that. I really fine tune how I like my indoor bow, get it shooting well, and then I just transfer that right to my 3D bows. So then I have 2 3D bows set up identical with different arrows, one for ASA, one for IBO. And I was actually last night I was shooting both of them just side by side, just feeling them both, make sure they both feel really, really close. And that's how I've been doing it. For me, it worked out pretty good last year, as in shooting wise. Last year I just had to figure out the judging part.
Absolutely. I definitely want to get into the judging part more, but as far as having 2 different bow setups, one for IBO and one for ASA, what are the key differences?
So for me, it's just arrow weight.
Okay.
So for ASA, I'm running 26s with 120 grain point, and for IBO, I'm running 23s with 120 grain point as well, which that weight there kind of offsets. And I think my poundage is about 1 pound difference. So it ended up being that my ASA bow shooting 294, my IBO bow shooting 304. So it worked out pretty good there. I just play around with point weight and stuff, see what I can get to shoot the speed and shoot well. And that's where I ended up this year.
So at your draw length, what kind of poundage are you running to get those speeds?
One of my bows 67, the other one's 68, I believe. I can't remember which one was which now.
Very nice. Okay. So as far as judging, you mentioned that you had some issues last year, like you just didn't judge the exact same way, I guess. You were looking at different ways to judge. Tell us a little bit about that transition from trying things out to kind of sticking with something that you really like.
Yeah, so last year Foley was my first pro 3D, first time shooting under 50. So I mean I'm pretty fresh going into it. And that was a disaster. I shot 13 down the first day. And what I went into that tournament doing was trying to play the rise. That's what I wanted to do, because I felt like that would be the safest. And I learned pretty quick that it didn't work for me. So, the next one I'd try holding hard at them, and then I'd shoot 8 and get discouraged. Then I'd go back to trying to play the rise, and it just never worked out. And I did it almost all season. I actually started shooting some uppers, but then I would kind of change, and not have like a process. And that's what really helps me. If I have I got to stick with something the whole time. Like this past weekend, I started off. Actually, I was 5 down after the first 4 targets. I shot a 5. So I just stuck with it. I was like, I got to keep trying it, something's got to work. And I feel like this, for what happened last year, which I missed a ton of targets low, this has to be probably the best option for me. And it really worked out in the end there. I didn't hit a 12 to like the 9th or 10th target first day. And then once I got used to it and started figuring out, part of it's because I haven't seen targets in a while, because living up here in Pennsylvania, I have no Mackenzies. There's no local shoots around. So
Right.
So once going, that strategy really worked out. And for IBO, it's kind of same old. You just same old thing. I mean, you're aiming for the middle, and as the season goes on, I slowly get better normally. As with the judging, I get to see more targets and all that. But it's just being safe, and you got to take in all the factors. You got to look at every little hump if you can't see that piece of ground, and just think how many yards could that target be back there behind that is really what comes down to. You got to just really pay attention. And sound judging too. Sound judging is important.
I was about to bring that up. Do you sound judge?
Yeah. I really started getting better at that last year, which you can't do it in amateur classes. So last year I was really learning how to do that, because most amateur classes, other than semi-pro, they're kind of wherever, shooting different speeds, especially IBO, because you don't even know who you'll be shooting with. You're not shooting with your class all the time. So I'd be shooting with a guy shooting 260, and the next guy would be shooting 320. So you can't sound judge, and that's something I really started getting better at, and I was a lot better this year at it.
Nice. Yeah. So do you have to ask Levi, hey, how fast you're shooting?
I just assume everyone's right around 290, and I know Levi, he's probably pushing as much as he can. So
for sure,
most unknown guys right at that 290 mark. Every bit you can get is better. So
absolutely. So as far as day 2, how was day 2?
Day 2 was phenomenal. I was just seeing perfect numbers, and I still got my safe numbers, and I really just kept taking the middle one because I needed rings. There's no doubt I had to shoot a really good day, and I ended up shooting 18 up for day 2, but no 8s either. So really, I started out first target. I think kind of held centerish just to get a feel for things. Took my higher number, and maybe I'd rise into it, and I still do the rise sometimes, just to try to play safe. And if I can really see what I'm aiming for, and then a second target, and it's like it kind of looks like the first one a little. I'm gonna put this number right on it and just hit. And I think I shot 312s in my first 5 targets, and after that, it just started seeing numbers really well, and it kept getting better and better. And towards the end, I was like, "Oh, I can make it in here." Just got hit one more 12, and I got real aggressive and almost missed one, but it ended up working out in the end. So,
did you have to have that 12 to get in the shoot off?
Not actually. Actually, I thought I might have. It was going to be 50-50 if I didn't hit my last arrow, because they messed up scoreboard, and they had McCarthy's name on there twice in 2 different scores yet. So I didn't even realize that I have to get the last one, which I'm glad I hit it. So it was actually the Impala, and the line on the Impala runs just under a 12. So I took my 12 number, what I thought really needed it to be, and I added a half yard and just smoked the bottom of it. So yeah, it worked out good that I went for that there at the end.
For sure. Tell us about the 5 target shoot off, and then the final shot.
Yeah, so going in there, I'm just happy to be there at this point. And if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. I really didn't care, and that's what really helped me. And yeah, it just got to be happy you made it that far. So I went in there. The first one, I could see it very well. I could see the whole 10 ring. So it's like, I actually had no idea how far it was. It's tough judging inside for me, especially me. I know Dan, he said he came back after we were judging. He was like, man, I have no idea what these are. So, we're all like, really, we don't know. I mean, it's just really tough for even all of us. And so I judged for 44.5 yards coyote. And when I was listening to the open women's pro shoot, it sounded farther than that. So I went out there, and I'm like, I really would hate to shoot it low, because if I'm going to miss, I'll probably miss it low. So I added 3 yards to that number. And I just held center. I was like, if I'm gonna hit it, I'm gonna catch the top of the 12. And it ended up catching the bottom of the 12, which I was definitely 2.5 yards off probably on my number. So made a good decision there. Smart decisions what really came down to it. And then from there, it's pretty easy to find numbers because once you shoot one, they're kind of side by side, so you can figure them out. So I should hit that one, and then I just wanted to hit tens from there. So I shot the black pig and hit a 10 on that one, and I think Levi ended up catching me then. So I moved on to the Impala, and I felt really confident numbers, so I aimed right for that one, and I got that one. So now I'm like, oh yeah, I got a chance to win this, but I don't want to. I like to stay on the podium, first shoot off. So I made it to Turkey, and I shot a 10 on Turkey. And then we get to the last one. For me, I was actually in a lucky position because my last target was the closest one. It's probably it was 31 yards, and I was what was I? I was only 1 point ahead of Levi at that point. So I'm just standing there looking at it. I was like, if I shoot a 14 on this target, I could really just about wrap things up if Levi don't hit the 12 on this next one. And but I was thinking back, I was really watching the field, see where guys are hitting the targets, especially the close one. I kept looking at that target, and I watched Dan miss it by like a whole inch and a half low, and I'm like, man, yeah, that makes me nervous shooting at this 14. And I don't want to like blow my chance for the final arrow, so I ended up shooting a 12 on that, and Levi did hit a 10, so that gave me a 3-point lead. And then so I get into the final arrow, and I'm standing there like, yeah, I can win this. I hope you don't hit this 14. But so I'm thinking, so I'm just thinking, well, I'm happy. I'm guaranteed to get second with a 10. So I'm just happy to be here. Hits the 14. I was like, well, I had two different numbers in my mind. So one number for a safe 10, just aim center 10 if you missed the 14. And then another number if I needed a 12. So I put it on that number, and I was just like, I just kept thinking numbers, trying to distract myself. And I just, as soon as that buzzer clicked, I drew back right away and put it right there. And I actually surprised myself. My pin sat on that 12 and never moved. Just a perfect shot. So yeah, it couldn't have gone much better, even in my mind. So
Yeah, it's incredible, man. I like how you just focused on the fact that you're just glad to be there. That's pretty much the best thing you can do. It's incredible.
yeah, just to
So
make it to that point, I mean, you shot that well. You should just be happy to be there shooting.
for sure. So with your sight picture, I personally thought it was really dark in the arena. Um, what kind of peep aperture are you running right now?
I'm running a 332nd, and I have a 1.5 clarifier in. I'm
Okay.
shooting a 5-power lens, so it is really clear setup what I got going. The only thing is the clearer you get, normally, I'm sure you notice, for me, it's the pin gets worse really bad. So I get a fuzzy pin for that clear setup. But I learned over the years to deal with that pin. So, but I didn't have too much trouble seeing. I definitely had trouble seeing the black pig in the back. I had a really hard time focusing in on that one and the turkey. Both the black targets were tough. The brown ones were easy to pick out the core lines. And I believe one or two of them I could see the 10 ring actually in my lens. So it wasn't too bad. It was just that black pig was tough. And actually, if I had one bad shot during the shoot off, it was on that black pig. I had a liner 10 to the right. And it was partially because I was struggling to find where I needed to be. So I didn't break the cleanest shot. But yeah, it wasn't the easiest to see out there.
For sure. Yeah, that was dark. It's very dark. I did not like the black targets, but um yeah, so are you going to indoor nationals?
No, I'm not going to be there. Figure it out. Indoor nationals is probably my least favorite shoot, so I figured I'm going to skip out on that one. Me and five spot don't get along too well, so just going to stay
It's
focused 3D.
it's basically at this point it's like you're blank bailing
Mm-hmm.
and just have to stay focused. It's so nerve-wracking. I think
Yeah.
it's nerve-wracking because it's so simple, you know.
Oh yeah, it's not hard to shoot a 60x, but when you get up there, you just make it hard on yourself. Well, I do at least. I
Yeah,
don't know why. It just beats me up mentally.
for sure. So, well, all right. Where can people find you on social media?
So I'm on Facebook. just Brady Myers on Facebook, and then my Instagram username's Archery _ 2004, and then that's mostly where only social media I'm on. So, and I also have a YouTube channel. It's called PA Pursuits Outdoors. I mostly just my hunting as goes on there. I might get some target stuff in the future, but I'm still working on all that. Just kind of, I don't take the time I need to do for it, but we're gonna try and make some better videos in the future on there.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I'm going to get my camera right now, which is actually my phone. And I'm going to swap this around. Okay, there we go. So we have some questions. Let's see if we have any questions pulled in here. Very nice. Okay. Who is this guy? Okay. This guy, Tucker Max 8, has a question. Do you use any daily affirmations or utilize a mental coach? I feel like that's
No.
a joke. No.
No.
Okay. Next question from ECS Temper. Stemper. My competition setup tour. Oh, that's something different. He does have a question though, and it is, what got you started in your shooting career? Who are your biggest archery inspirations?
So mainly, I guess my dad really got me started shooting archery, but just shooting with my uncle as I kind of just took interest in it and really just wanted to decide I really want to compete. I really liked it going to states with them, and basically just that's all I wanted to do other than hunting. And biggest archery inspirations when I was younger, I mean, it's probably Levi Morgan because I love 3D. So definitely Levi Morgan, and I always seem to watch Jesse Broadwater a lot too for the target side of things and Chance, but mainly probably Levi.
Very nice. Now, you live in southwest
South,
Pennsylvania?
more South Central, maybe even a little Easternish.
Do you ever shoot with Levi? He's in Pennsylvania.
Nah, he's more Western side. I believe he's probably like 3 to 3.5 hours from me. So we never shot or anything like that.
Gotcha. No worries. So, Jason Hoanna asks, his bow setup the whole 9 yards.
It's important, but I mean, the most important thing in archery is mental. And so the bow setup, and if you're happy with your bow setup and it feels good, I mean, that's definitely important even to your mental side of things. If you're down in your setup, then you don't have something set up right, or it's not going to work if you're not liking your setup. So really, you just got to find what works for you, what you perform under pressure the best with, and that may take a while to figure out. But yeah, you just got to play around with them kind of things.
For sure. I think he was probably asking like specifically the equipment you're using. So if you want to go into detail about that too.
Okay, yeah. So if we're talking for 3D, I'm running a 68 pounds on the ASA bow, but a PS26 120 grain points, and then biter knocks, and I'm running 2-degree right helical on a blade rest. I can just get enough clearance with 26s to run a 2-degree. It may even be a little bit more than 2-degree how I have them fletched, but yeah, it's pretty forgiving for me. Just the way them 26s, just a big arrow. This is the first year I ever shot 26s, but for me, I feel like they're almost as forgiving, if not more forgiving than my 23s. So definitely working good there.
Awesome. Yeah, this is the first year I've shot 26s in a couple years. I shot 23s just because I have a short draw length and I needed speed. And I felt like even for known, it's a lot easier having a short sight tape. It's a lot less that can go wrong, it seems. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, they shoot really, really well.
yeah, they do.
So, let me see here. I want to get the other questions. Adam Wagner asks, "What is the biggest what is the biggest change Brady made to his shot process that has made the most difference in his success?"
For me, my shot process has been pretty similar. If we're talking like what my process is to full draw and everything like that, I don't think I've really changed anything. I've always shot kind of the same kind of shot. But the one thing, especially on the indoor side of things, is I need to get the shot off quick. Is for me because once the longer I hold, the worse the outcome is. Especially indoors, I have trouble once I get in my release too long. I get tension and I just don't get my shot to break. So for me, it's to really get on that shot quick. And that's what I learned in the shoot offs. There is no hesitating because you don't have much time to let down. If you do let down, then it's just more pressure to get that shot off. So to get on it and make the cleanest shot possible as quick as I can.
Wow, that's excellent. Cody Lippincott asks, "How did you figure out how far the targets were?"
Yeah, I just kind of figured that out as I went, really.
He says, "Congratulations."
Thank you.
Okay, and that is all of our questions. So, congratulations again, Brady. You shot awesome this weekend, and we are definitely excited to see how the rest of your season goes.
Thank you.
All right, guys.